Part 5, Chapter 1 of the Manxman. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Manxman by Sir Caine. Part 5, Man and Man, Chapter 1. It was Saturday, and the marketplace was covered with the carts and stalls of the country people. After some feint of eating breakfast, Pete lit his pipe, called for a basket, and announced his intention of doing the marketing. "Coming for the mistress, are you, Captain?" "I'm a sort of a grass widow, ma'am. What's your eggs today, Mistress Cowley?" 16 this morning, sir, and right ones too. They were telling me you've been losing her." "Give me a shilling's worth, then. Any news over your side, Mag?" 2, 4, 8, 16. It's every appearance we'll be getting an early harvest, Captain." "Is it yourself, Lisa? And how's your butter today?" "Bad to bate today, sir, and only 13 pence halfpenny. Is the little one longing for the mistress, Captain?" "I'll take a couple of pounds, then. What for longing at all when it's going bringing up by hand it is? Put it in a cabbage leaf, Lisa." Thus, with his basket on his arm and his pipe in his mouth, Pete passed from stall to stall, chatting, laughing, bargaining, buying, shouting his salutations over the general hum and hubbub, as he ploughed his way through the crowd, but listening intently, watching eagerly, casting out grapples to catch the anchor he had lost, and feeling all the time that if any eye showed sign of knowledge, if any one began with, "Captain, I can tell you where she is," he must leap on the man like a tiger, and strangle the revelation in his throat. Next day, Sunday, his friends from Sulby came to quiz and to question. He was lounging in his shirt sleeves on a deck chair in his ship's cabin, smoking a long pipe and pretending to be at ease and at peace with all the world. "Fine morning, Captain," said John the clerk. "It is doing a fine morning, John," said Pete. "Fine on the sea too," said Jonaique. "Wonderful fine on the sea, Mr. Jelly." "A nice fair wind, though, if anybody was going by the packet to Liverpool. Was it as good, think you, for the mistress on Friday night, Mr. Quilliam?" "I'll guarantee," said Pete. "Plucky, though. I wouldn't have thought it of the same woman. I wouldn't really," said Jonaique. "Alone too, and landing on the other side so early in the morning," said John the clerk. "Smart uncommon. It isn't every woman would have done it," said Kelly the postman. "Aw, we've mighty boys of women dees days, we have dough," snuffled the constable, and then they all laughed together. Pete watched their wheedling, fawning, and whisking of the tail, and then he said, "Chut, what's there so wonderful about a woman going by herself to Liverpool when she's got somebody waiting at the stage to meet her?" The laughing faces lengthened suddenly. "And had she then?" said John the clerk. Pete puffed furiously, rolled in his seat, laughed like a man with a mouthful of water, and said, "Why, sartenly. My uncle, of course." Jonaique wrinkled his forehead. "Uncle?" he said, with a click in his throat. "Yes, my Uncle Joe," said Pete. Jonaique looked helplessly across at John the clerk. John the clerk puckered up his mouth, as if about to whistle, and then said in a faltering way, "Well, I can't really say I've ever heard tell of your Uncle Joe before, Captain." "No?" said Pete, with a look of astonishment. "Not my Uncle Joseph? The one that left the island 40 years ago and started in the coach and cab line? Well, that's curious. Where's he living? Bless me, where's this it is now? Chut, it's clane forgot at me. But I saw him myself coming home from Kimberley, and since then he's been writing constant. 'Send her across,' says he. 'She'll be her own woman again, like winking.' And you never heard tell of him? Not Uncle Joey with the bald head? Well, well, a smart old man, though. Man alive, the lively he is too, and the laughable and the good company. To look at that man's face you'd say the sun was shining reg'lar. Oh, it's fine times she'll be having with Uncle Joe. No woman could be ill with yonder old man about. He'd break your face with laughing if it was bursting itself with a squinsey. And you never heard tell of my Uncle Joe, of Scotland Road, down Clarence Dock way? To think of that now!" They went off with looks of perplexity, and Pete turned into the house. "They're trying to catch me. They're wanting to shame my poor lil Kirry. I must keep her name sweet," he thought. The church bells had begun to ring, and he was telling himself that heavy though his heart might be, he must behave as usual. "She'll be going walking to church herself this morning, Nancy," he said, putting on his coat, "so I'll just slip across to chapel." He was swinging up the path on his return home to dinner, when he heard voices inside the house. "It's shocking to see the man pretending this and pretending that." It was Nancy. She was laying the table. There was a rattle of knives and forks. "Pretending to ate, but only pecking like a robin. Pretending to sleep, but never a wink on the night. Pretending to laugh and to joke and wink, and a face at him like a ghost's, and his hair all through others. Walking about from river to quay, and going on with all that rubbish. It's shocking, ma'am, it's shocking." "Hush-a-by, hush-a-by." It was the voice of Grannie, low and quavery. She was rocking the cradle. "You can't spake to him neither, but he's scolding you scandalous. I'm not used of being cursed at, I'm saying, and is it myself that has to be told to respect my own Kitty? But cry shame on her I must when I look at the lil bogh there, and it's so helpless and so beautiful. Hysterics, you say? Yes, indeed, ma'am, and if I stay here much longer it's losing myself I will be too, with his pretending and pretending. Lave him to it, Nancy. His poor head's that moidered and mixed it's like a black pudding. There's no saying what's inside of it. But he's good, though. Oh, right good he is for all, and the world's cold and cruel. Lave him alone, woman, lave him alone, poor boy." The child awoke and cried, and under cover of this commotion and the crowing and cooing of the two women, Pete stepped back to the gate, clashed it hard, swung noisily up the gravel, and rolled into the house with a shout and a laugh. "Well, well, Grannie, my gough! Who'd have thought of seeing Grannie now? And how's the old angel today? So you've got the lil one there? Oh, you rogue, you! You're on Grannie's lap, are you? How's Cæsar? And how's Mrs. Gorry doing? Look at that now! Did you ever? Opening one eye first to make sure if the world's all right. The child's wise. Coo-oo! Smart with the dinner, Nancy. Wonderful hungry the chapel's making a man. Coo-oo! What's she like now, Grannie? "When I set her to my knee like this I can see my own lil Kirry again," said Grannie, looking down ruefully, rocking the child with one knee and doubling over it to kiss it. "So she's like the mammy, is she?" said Pete, blowing at the baby and tickling its chin with his broad forefinger. "Mammy's gone to the old uncle's, hasn't she, my lammy?" At that Grannie fell to rocking herself as well as the child, and to singing a hymn in a quavery voice. Then, with a rattle and a rush, throwing off his coat and tramping the floor in his shirt sleeves, while Nancy dished up the dinner, Pete began to enlarge on Kate's happiness in the place where she had gone. "Tremenjous grand the ould man's house is, you wouldn't believe. A reg'lar Dempster's palace. The grandeur on it is a show and a pattern. Plenty to ate, plenty to drink, and a boy at the door with white buttons dotting on his brown coat, bless you like a turnip field in winter. Then the man himself, goodness me, the happy that man is. Happy Joe, they're calling him. Wouldn't trust but he'll be taking Kate to a theaytre. Well, and why not, if a person's down a bit? A merry touch and go, where's the harm at all? Fact is, Grannie, that's why we couldn't tell you Kate was going. Cæsar would have been objecting. He's fit enough for it. Ha, ha!" Grannie looked up at Pete as he laughed, and the broad rose withered on his face. He said, clearing his throat. "I'm bad dreadful wanting a smoke." And past the dinner table, now smoking and ready, he slithered out of the house. Cæsar was Pete's next visitor. He said nothing of Kate, and neither did Pete mention Uncle Joe. The interview was a brief and grim one. It was a lie that Ross Christian had been sent by his father to ask for a loan, but it was true that Peter Christian was in urgent need of money. He wanted £6,000 as mortgage on Ballawhaine. Had Pete got so much to lend? No need for personal intercourse. Cæsar would act as intermediary. Pete took only a moment for consideration. Yes, he had got the money, and he would lend it. Cæsar looked at Pete. Pete looked at Cæsar. "He's talking all this rubbish," thought Cæsar, "but he knows where the girl has gone to. He knows who's taken her. He manes to kick the rascal out of his own house neck and crop, and right enough too, and the Lord's own vengeance." But Pete's thoughts were another matter. The old man won't live to redeem it, and the young one will never try. It'll do for Philip some day. End of Part 5, Chapter 1.